don't see John. I'm just going for a walk. Are you all ready to go?
They know you're ready.
Ready down here? Okay. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, I didn't see John. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are starting out our student staff recognition portion of board meetings this year by recognizing the Teacher of the Year and Staff Member of the Year for Liverpool Central School District. And Sue Graves Horner, our Staff Member of the Year, could not be with us tonight. She had a prior family commitment, but we do have the wonderful Mrs. Melissa Cannon here. And so I think Mrs. Jolson has a little slide thing that she would like to start with.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, and I do have our Teacher of the Year, Mrs. Melissa Cannon, here. Before I go through and celebrate her, I do want to recognize that there were several staff members who were nominated. Here's one slide. These are sort of alphabetical by their first names here. They're from all over the district. They represent teachers, and then so anyone in the teacher retirement system and then anyone in the employee retirement system is who was considered for staff members. So that's the distinguishment between Teacher of the Year and Staff Member of the Year. So this slide is several of our staff members and teachers, and the second slide is another list. Some of these people were nominated once or nominated multiple times. The union presidents, along with the district cabinet, reviewed all of the nominations, really looking for those who really stood out with an outstanding contribution to the district and the school community or the greater community, and those who also really had a distinguishing quality to their nomination. I will continue here. Ms. Cannon, if you wouldn't mind. You can, if you want to stand up there with Mr. Blaney here. Thank you. And if you don't mind, I would like to read what we had shared before. So, of course, it's my great honor to again honor you, Mrs. Cannon. She has dedicated her entire career to the children of Liverpool. As a proud alum herself, she has taught thousands of students the joy of music with grace, patience, and kindness. And she has a relentless drive for excellence. Walk into one of her rehearsals and you will see children not only learning notes on a page, but discovering confidence, teamwork, and the joy of creating something beautiful together. Her students absolutely love her, and it shows. From their very first lessons to their senior concerts, Melissa's influence can be heard in their music and seen in their growth. She gives young musicians the strong foundation they need to soar both academically and artistically. But Melissa's impact reaches far beyond the band room. She's a wonderful colleague, a mentor, and a friend. You cannot walk down the hallway with her without being stopped by a student eager to share an accomplishment or a staff member who's grateful for her support. She has built a community where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued. Whether she's leading summer sessions, organizing trips, running a baking club, or hosting her beloved band lunches, Melissa pours her heart into everything she does. Her positivity is infectious, her energy unmatched, and her legacy undeniable. She received a few nominations, and one in particular stood out: her former band student, who now calls Melissa her mentor and colleague. You are a gifted educator, a beloved mentor, and an inspiration to us all. No one is deserving more of this recognition, so congratulations once again on being our Teacher of the Year. I also just would like to add that one of the, now that we've brought back Staff Member and Teacher of the Year, one of the things that I'm hopeful we'll be doing is working with Alpha to nominate who our Teacher of the Year was to become New York State's Teacher of the Year. I believe the application's due in February, so I will be working with Alpha leadership to move forward with that application. So
I would love to see that.
congratulations.
Thank you so much. I have a little bit written here. It's a little more, I guess, a little more personal. One of the greatest privileges of being on the school board is being able to recognize the extraordinary contributions of our faculty and staff. And it's no exaggeration to say they are what makes Liverpool exceptional. And they are the ones who push us to reach new heights as a district. I happen to have the honor of knowing this year's Teacher of the Year personally. I first met Mrs. Cannon when I was in 7th grade at Sewell Road Middle School, and I remember being simply enamored by her entire aura. She just embodied this coolness that came with being a low brass player, and she was very much a happy warrior. She was already pretty legendary when it came to teaching low brass players, but I also remember she was no slouch, meaning she had no problem keeping elementary kids in line while still maintaining her cool. A skill I've come to learn is not easy to master. Although this award is about Mrs. Cannon, I feel I would be remiss if I didn't recognize her roots and her upbringing. We talk a lot about Liverpool legends here at this table, and I consider her parents to be sort of Liverpool legendary royalty in a way. Her parents, Sharon and Dave Fulmer, were the best of us and the best of what Liverpool has to bring. Sharon Fulmer was a prolific writer and editor of the Liverpool Review for many years. Her memory lives on with a Dollars for Scholars scholarship that's awarded every June. And while I never had the opportunity to meet Mrs. Fulmer, I did get the opportunity to know Mr. Fulmer pretty well. We were section mates in the bass section of the Syracuse University Oratorio Society. And I joined the Oratorio Society when I was a freshman in high school, literally 13 years old. And even for a kid with a lot of chutzpah, that could be intimidating at times. And I couldn't have asked for a better friend, mentor than Dave Fulmer, who was always beaming with pride for his daughter, Melissa. In another twist, Dave also worked with my dad at Lockheed Martin, so that's the small world that we live in. Anyway, I bring this up because we are very much our roots, whether we like it or not, and so we can overcome the shortcomings of our ancestors or stand on their shoulders, building upon their successes. But either way, we come from someplace, and that is very much in our bones. For those of us that know Mrs. Cannon, we know she sacrifices quite a bit in order to remain teaching here at Liverpool, especially when any district would be lucky to have her. She drives over an hour each way to get to work every day, and for those of you who haven't done the thruway from Rochester to Syracuse in winter, that's a feat in and of itself. So it would be understandable if she didn't stick around for after-school evening activities. but that's not Melissa Cannon. She is always willing to step in and help at any building, any ensemble, and lend her expert euphonium playing. It's no surprise to me when I'm at a concert at the high school and they say, helping out in the low brass section is Mrs. Cannon. And she'll give a big wave and her famous smile. Personally, whenever I needed help navigating a euphonium solo or some tough passages, she was always willing to help with some private lessons. And I just have to say, I learned from my elementary school music teacher, the greatest thing a music teacher can do is instill a love of music in their students. And I know that that's what she does every single day. So to be a great teacher, it's an amalgamation of different things. But I think it boils down to a few important points: respect from students, respect from colleagues, and respect from community. And when all those are present, the opportunities are endless. So Mrs. Cannon, we're so proud to have you as our Teacher of the Year. Thank you. And you can feel free to scoot up whenever you want. Yes. Thank you for joining us, though. I will say, since I will say about Sue Graves Horner, who's not able to join us tonight, but I'm sure she will find out from somebody or maybe listen later. I wanted to share a few words about her. While I don't have the same length of history as I do with Mrs. Cannon, I do know Sue pretty well, as she is very much one of the faces of the DO. She's one of the first people that we all see when we come into the DO or lets us in at the door. For families who come here to get registered or handle other student service items, it's probably more fitting to describe Sue as a force of nature. It's impossible not to be drawn into her brightness and warmth, regardless of the day or time. For those of you who have never been in student services, I wish you could be a fly on the wall, because it's kind of like being in an organized hurricane every day as families come in and out. And for many of them, it's their first stop and their first connection with our district. And so it's important that we set the right first impression and set the tone for the future. So there are a myriad of intricacies to the paperwork that must be faithfully followed and completed, and she does it all with grace. This alone would be enough to make her the Staff Person of the Year. But combined with the personal challenges she has overcome, Sue becomes a superhero for many of us. A living embodiment of what it means to fight to live another day and to spend one's time in pursuit of bettering the lives of others. For all those reasons and so many more, Sue Graves Horner is a Liverpool legend, and we are so pleased to honor her as Staff Member of the Year. Okay, enough of my monologues. Number 3.10, do I have a motion to approve, acknowledge, and/or accept the routine business items as submitted? Motion by Ms. Chilber, second by Ms. Martin. Any discussion? Oh, Ms. Brissette?
There's some items on here that weren't updated, so I will be abstaining from this.
Okay. So there were things that weren't updated?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Should they be updated before we?
It's the surplus of the freezer
Oh,
and
okay.
the oven. It should
Okay.
say Donlin Drive Elementary. It
Okay.
doesn't reference Donlin Drive.
Great. Okay, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those opposed? All those abstaining? 2 hands are raised. All right, thank you. I just want to recognize the local vendors that have donated for the ENL Community Fair. There are quite a few. And also to the Liverpool Foundation for their sponsorship of 38 students going to the Empire State Student Press Association Conference at Syracuse University's Newhouse School. So we thank all of those individuals. That's a great segue for President's Report. Tomorrow night is the ENL graduation at Chestnut Hill Middle. If you haven't been before, it's one of my favorite nights of the year. It's really a joy to see these families come in and celebrate this extraordinary achievement. Many of them who have arrived in America not too long ago, and now they're celebrating their children being proficient in the English language. So as we know, though, it doesn't stop after ENL graduation. We still have some supports in place that have to be done, and that's why you see sometimes the new ENL staff members being added, because we do have commitments that have to be honored under state law. So I want to also thank all the board members for being at our fall board retreat last Tuesday at the Lodge in Skaneateles. It was really a great night, and I think we took some steps forward as a group and talked about how we want to move forward as a group. And I know that it was just a beginning, but we always have to start somewhere, right? And so we will keep building upon that. And if you have anything, I will be sending out kind of a follow-up to that, but if there's something specifically that you would like to follow up more on, please let me know. As far as, we had talked a little bit about department updates and possibly a different format to that, possibly adding a written portion. I did print off what I think is one of the best department updates that I see through BOCES. It's the CNY RIC. Chantel Corbin puts out an update. If that's something, I'll pass it around. If that's the idea you're thinking of, if that's what you're wanting, then we can kind of go from there. If there's a better example that you know of or you want to reach out to me with, please do that. We're not going to make any changes without us all being in agreement on it. So that's that. I just want to say I was at Starbucks last weekend, and I noticed that there was a fire truck coming down Route 57, and I'm like, okay. And it's kind of going kind of slow. And I'm like, oh, there must be an accident or something. And then as I'm pulling out, I realize there are charter buses behind the fire truck. And it immediately clicked to me what it was. It was our marching band returning home from their trip. And I just think that is incredible. That speaks to what a supportive community we have, that our fire department is ready to welcome them home. And it was a great welcome. And I'm sure somebody has their actual scores or placings, but I don't have them right in front of me, so I won't try to budge that. But that was that. Matt and I will be at Rick and I, Mr. Chapman and I will be at NYSBA Wednesday evening through Saturday. So we're looking forward to going to all the sessions and things that go along with NYSBA. It's always fun because there's always something you can bring back home. And so I think those are always worthwhile when we can send at least a couple of people so that we can hear from different districts. And my favorite part is just talking to other school board members from all over the state, because you can just sit with someone and say, what are you guys going through? What's your biggest issue right now? And you end up learning more than you might in any session. So that's President's Report. I'll turn it over to Mr. Chapman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Blaney. Just hitting on a couple things, I wanted to mention ENL graduation. Once again, Mr. Blaney said probably one of my favorite nights of the year. Just like Mr. Belaney, it's an amazing evening. If you want a cheap date with you and your significant other, please come out and attend. Thursday, I'll be at NISBA on Thursday. You're heading out a day early, so I'll have to catch up. I also wanted to mention the Board of Ed retreat that we had last week. I thought it was an amazingly positive experience, definitely taking steps in a very good direction. So thank you for everyone for allowing me to sit in on that. I want to recognize Tim Nicholas, Liverpool High School teacher. He leads a group, the Liverpool Lifeguard Group, and they received 9 awards from the Empire State School Press Association at a ceremony that was held at the Newhouse School, Syracuse University. So congratulations to all the individuals, Tim and all of the students who were involved in that. It's quite an honor. Also want to recognize a longtime employee in Liverpool Central School District who is actually retiring from Syracuse City School District, Tony Davis. I just wanted to make sure that we did acknowledge Tony's. He had a big impact on the district, and obviously give him well wishes for that. An update on the High School Nation. I know Ms. O'Brien and Ms. Ancona have been working hard trying to get a situation righted. Ms. Ancona has been in contact with High School Nation. It seems that they're being less than responsive. Am I being accurate? Ms. O'Brien's nodding yes. It appears that they may not deliver on their promise to right the situation, but we're still giving it a try. It just seems the communication has faded a bit. So, and then this one just came to me this afternoon. It's quite an amazing story. We have a teaching assistant, Miss Taylor's 1213 room at the high school, Greg Keener. Some of you may know there was a motorcycle accident on 57 on Friday. And it was reported that Mr. Keener was actually, he was on scene providing CPR for the victim. So it takes a very special person to stop and engage in that manner. A lot of people will back away from a situation like that, where he went into that situation. So congratulations to, I guess congratulations, thank you to him, and hopefully everything works out for that motorist. And with that, all set.
Any questions for Mr. Chapman? No? Okay. Student Liaison Report 4.3.
All right, so this week we have our class meetings upcoming for all 4 grade levels. All 4 grade levels will attend throughout the week, and this round of meetings will focus on informing students on how they can succeed and the resources provided at the school to help them excel.
And as you guys said earlier, the marching band won first place in the Maryland competition, and they have been winning first place nonstop, and I'm honestly so proud of them. I see videos of their show, and they're honestly doing a phenomenal job. Also, this Liverpool pool swimming and diving record was broken by June P, so shout out. And the football team beat Bivell and placed CBA last Friday, which, do you know the outcome?
Don't know the outcome.
Okay. Well, I don't know the outcome either. I'm not a football girly anyways. So the annual graduation will be taking place tomorrow, and I think it's an amazing event because I'm an ENL graduate and I graduated like a while ago. But I love seeing how much it has grown over the past few years. Mine was at the Morgan Middle School, and we had cupcakes. But I'm not saying anything. But now they have a full feast. So that I'm honestly great. I volunteered at the graduation last year, and it was truly amazing seeing so many different people from so many different cultures. So if you get a chance to go, I hope I see you there. Also, this is something I added in, is that the Community-Wide Dialogue Club is starting up at the high school. I'm a facilitator for the club, so it's an exchange program between Liverpool High School and Henniger High School. So we get to meet in 6 sessions between us and them, and we just talk a lot about different topics of like current world issues, or just reducing bias and stereotypes between the city school and the stereotypical suburban school. So I'm just really excited for it.
And going back to the band, they will have their championship on Sunday, October 26th at the Dome, and they will be competing with other bands from all across the state, so we are wishing them luck on their performance. This past Wednesday, we had the club fair, and it was very successful. Many different clubs set up tables with stickers, candy, and forms to express interest. All students attended at their classes' scheduled times during second and third period, and many students discovered and signed up for a bunch of new clubs. I'm the president of SAPA, Student Association for Political Awareness, and our club gained 52 new members from the club fair, and other clubs had just as successful of a turnout, so it was amazing.
It truly was. My club, I was running a table for Know Your Neighbor score, and we had 30-something people sign up, so I hope I see them in our next meetings. Last but not least, I know Superintendent mentioned this earlier, but the communication arts students had a trip to SU's New House, which was a conference for the CA programs, and they were awarded for their documentaries, magazines, news shows, and they won 9 awards in total. And over 30 schools submitted their work at these awards, so congratulations to these students and the teacher. That's it.
Thank you so much, both of you. Any questions for our students? Ms. Brissett?
I just have a comment. Thank you for doing the club fair. There was a couple parents that reached out after and said that their kids were joining, so thank you for doing that. It makes a big difference when you're new to the school.
Thank you. I'll be at the Dome on Sunday night. I don't know if anyone else is planning to go, but we'll find each other. The Liverpool group always finds each other, right, Ms. O'Brien? Okay, 4.4, budget update. You may be saying, isn't it a little early for a budget update? No, because we're starting early this year, so that's why there's a budget update.
Anyone else want to come up and help us? All right. Present, there we go. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you. I apologize for the technical difficulties. This is our initial report to the board for our budget process. Mr. Blaney mentioned it's a little bit earlier than normal, but we wanted to get started early this year to make sure we allow time for transparency, collaboration. We want to get feedback as we go through this process. So really, on October 2nd, we had our first BAT team meeting. Our goal was to develop a financial plan. We also wanted to lay the groundwork. We started with a very basic definition of what is a budget, and we worked from there using a series of questions. Once again, I mentioned earlier, we want to be very transparent as we go through this process and create a budget that meets the needs of our students and also our district as we go through the year. This slide, just our budget calendar, we've presented that to the board so you're aware of that. If for those of you, you would be able to see it in the presentation if you click on that in our presentation. So if you go to the next slide. All right, so once again, we talked about laying the groundwork. So the phrase I used is you can't have common sense if you don't have common understanding. So we wanted to build that understanding for everyone that participated in the process. We did that by using a series of questions, once again, starting with something as simple as what is a budget, if you could switch it. And the way that the process would work is we would ask the question, we'd allow participants in the group to interact with each other, and they would come up with their budget. Now, you might think, our budget committee, this is pretty basic, but when we allowed everyone to sit and talk, and then we shared back to the entire group, everyone had a slightly different answer of what a budget was. So kind of our working definition of a budget, we said it's revenue, expenses, basically money in and money out. And then we took it a step further and we talked about our budget needs to really meet our mission, vision, values, and goals. And it should reflect on who we are as a district and what we want from our students, and once again, our district as a whole. And I should mention being good stewards of the budget process. So it would be short-sighted to just plan from year to year. We really want to make a forecast out 3 to 5 years to make sure we're leaving the district in a good spot as we move through our process. Okay. So one of the next questions we asked the entire group was, has LCSD changed since the last budget? And we allowed everyone to talk for a few minutes, and then we said, all right, how have we changed? We have new contracts, several brand new contracts, growing population of Ls, and that means we usually have more staffing with our E&L teachers, and there's resources associated with those Ls as well. Rate students in poverty, that's something that I think gets overlooked all too often in Liverpool. Our poverty rate has climbed over the past 10 to 15 years, so that also requires some different resources to use to potentially support families and fill some learning gaps. New programs, we have new CTE programs, and we have some other programs available to our students, and we want to make sure we support those. And also increased student need, and that's general education and special education. So there's needs that students have, especially coming out of COVID, that behavioral needs in some cases that require extra support. So we want to be aware of those as well. So as we went through the process, we talked about we spend our money and what are our priorities. And the largest thing we spend our money on, like most organizations, I think if I went around the room and I said, where do you work? And you told me, I said, and what does that organization spend their money on? Most of the time you're going to say it's salaries and benefits. All right, that goes without saying, and the district is the same. Also instructional programs, we talked about special education as our students' needs. We seem to have a larger population of special needs students. Transportation, we have BOCES, debt service, general operation, and obviously our administration as well. So what % of our budget is allocated in salary and benefits? You can see we have our salary and benefits on the far right in the blue, and then it's broken down by, it says salaries at 47%, benefits at 28.8%. It's hard to see, so I'll read it to you. We have our debt, which is 7.8%, and all other, which is 16%. And give me 1 second, and I can break this down a little bit more for you. Lost my page. I just wanted to share with you what the other was, because that was a question that came up in the presentation. Where it says other, the group asked, what does that other make up? And that's BOCES, it's contractual, it's supplies. When we get to benefits, and it came up earlier, we have TRS and ERS, and then salaries, it's pretty straightforward. But in our debt service, that's what we use to keep our buildings and everything in good condition. So the question also was asked, what does the public vote on? And that's a short conversation. The public votes on the general fund and any propositions that are placed on the ballot. So that's important to understand. Then we got into what our revenues are. Where does the money come from? And we're going to look at a couple different slides that show really the same information. But our taxes and our state aid, if you look, those are fairly close. We also have federal aid at 0.2, and that's a renewable resource. We have reserves and fund balance. And we also have our other. So if you want to switch it. It's also important to note when we talk about our revenues, there's been a lot of articles about cuts in potential funding from federal aid, cuts in state aid. And of course, as we go through our budget process, we're going to pay a very close eye to what those look like. And it could cause us to make adjustments to our budget as aid may be reduced or hopefully added. This year, it doesn't look like it's going to be an adding type of year. So once again, keeping a very close eye on what those cuts may look like. Just another picture of what the information was on the last page. You can see that we're almost 50-50 as far as our state aid and our real property tax, which is in the blue. Our state aid is in the orange. In some districts, that pie graph will look much different. Depending on the wealth of that district, or in some cases, the lack of wealth in a district, that can look a little bit skewed. Okay. Sure.
So one of the other things that we wanted to talk about tonight is when we're looking at this with that state aid category, just a reminder that we do get about 85% back on our capital projects. So when we're talking about building the budget and we have a $100,000 project in our budget, we get $85,000 back on that project. So the local share is only about 15. So that's one of the things that we're going to be discussing as we go through the budget cycle this year as well. Transportation aid is about a 78% ratio, and these factors are what the state tells us. Now, obviously, there's other factors that impact those, but just to keep in mind that we do have some categories in our general fund budget that are highly aidable, and then our BOCES aid ratio is just under 75% as well.
So then, as we went through the process, we did start talking about forecasting, and we looked at some other data points as that we haven't shared tonight, but eventually we will be sharing with the board and with the public in the future. But there's some different data points that we're looking at as far as how, let's say, our E&L population has grown. All right, let's look at our poverty rate. Those are two that I mentioned previously, and look at the programs and our staffing and everything that goes into what makes our school and how we support students and how we can continue to support our students and families, and also how we may need to make some adjustments as we get into some tough financial times. So we get into our long-range planning, and just really the philosophy behind the long-range planning is we want to plan where we have a vision of what our learning and our programs look like. What do we want our schools to look like? Once again, we put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to fund those programs. Talked about projections, and that's not just living from budget to budget or almost paycheck to paycheck, but looking forward 5 years and making sure we're in good financial health 5 years down the line. We talked about as far as in some instances, you wouldn't use your savings account to pay your mortgage. We want to be very careful that we're not using our savings to pay our mortgage as we go through our budgeting. Can you go back one slide? Our resource management, of course, you want to make sure we deploy our budget resources so it's in a sustainable manner. And then just compliance, making sure, and it was talked about earlier, Mr. Blaney brought it up, for example, E&L, there are some compliance pieces. Special ed has compliance pieces that we have to make sure we apply. Just looking at our revenue trends, you can see it says other state aid, tax levy, and reserves and appropriated at the very top. So it starts at the bottom. You can see the little tiny blue slice along the bottom. That's the other piece. State aid, you can see, is the next piece up, kind of the bluish, dark blue color. Our orange is our tax levy. Once again, our state aid and our tax levy, about 50-50. Really, the interesting piece is the revenue and appropriated funds. It's almost doubled as you go across the top, and you can see the numbers, where in 2022-23, it was $3,760,000 and some change, and then projected out 25-26, it's $7,500,000. So that appropriated fund balance has gone up, increased dramatically. So, all right. As we go through the process, we're collecting questions from our BAT team members. Also, we're fortunate we have Ms. Brissett and Mr. McKeever from the board that are sitting in on the meetings, and they ask a couple questions as well. One of the areas that we want to focus on is looking at similar schools and deciding what the criteria will be when we look at similar schools. We could look at schools that have similar poverty rates, could be similar size, it could be similar demographics. There's a lot of different variables we could plug in to try to find what the similar school looks like. Maybe look at a couple of those to see how they're navigating some of the waters that we're about to enter. With that, am I missing anything? Have anything to add? Any questions from the board?
Ms. Brissett?
First, I want to say, let me scoot over here. Thank you for taking this on, because I know that you both were not here when this budget was created. So, like you said, we're coming into some tough financial times, and I realize that this is going to be a huge undertaking, especially when we move forward these next couple of years after, these contracts and everything settles. My question is, from forecasting, are you saying that we shouldn't take on any more debt or any more expenses or contracts?
I think that, you've got to look at the whole picture. I don't think there's any one thing that we should or shouldn't be doing at this moment in time. I think we need to be cognizant of where we're headed. We're looking at that long-range forecast. I think that there's going to be a lot of districts. I was just at a conference last Thursday and Friday. There's a lot of districts that are concerned about budgeting going forward right now. Obviously, all of the funds during the COVID funds, we were still kind of hanging on to a few of those up until this year. So there's districts that are really kind of looking ahead and just making the right decisions to be sustainable. We did use some of our fund balance or some of those reserves and appropriated fund balance that Mr. Chapman was referring to close out our year in 24-25, and I foresee that happening again this year. I think that's something that we need to be mindful of as we move forward. That's not sustainable, as Mr. Chapman was explaining. We can't be paying for our operating expenses with our savings account. It's not renewable. So I think it's more of a discussion and right sizing and just making sure that we're supporting our students and doing everything possible to make the right decisions going forward. I'm never one to say like it's one thing that we should or shouldn't do. We have to look at our revenues, we have to look at our expenses, and we're really talking tonight about general fund. That's really what the taxpayers are voting on, but we do know we have grant funding that is followed up differently in a different fund in the business world. Keeping track of all of those factors to make sure we make the best decisions.
Now, do you foresee us making any cuts or pulling back on some things, on some expenses this year?
I think right now it's early to tell. We're going to have those conversations. So to say we're cutting in this area or that area, I think it would be a little bit premature to get into those discussions. I would anticipate we just have to look. We are going to have to look carefully at our programming and everything to make sure we offer what we need to support our students, but at the same time be fiscally sound as we move forward. So more to come on that.
Okay. And again, thank you for taking this on.
Ms. Melnick and Mr. Jones?
I had a question from a friend of mine who looked at this prior to the meeting, and she had a couple questions. I know 47.9% of the budget is salaries. Is that including the stipends and coaching? Is that considered
It would be, yes.
salaries?
Yes.
It is? Okay.
Do you have just one? Okay. Read.
Mr. Jones?
Mr. Chapman, thank you for, we've gone back and forth on this topic over the past week, but I just wanted to give you an opportunity to address something that I know people have been speaking to me about, and I've, in turn been speaking to you about, and that is the impact of the federal cuts specifically to special education programs. And I was just wondering if you could kind of give an update on that. Or I know that so much of it is still up in the air, and we don't know how things are going to land, but just where we're at on that and how we're preparing.
Like I said, we're keeping our eye on all the federal cuts. And I gave an example when we spoke earlier. There was, in the summertime, there was an article that went out in New York Times talking about the cuts to title funding. And some people got a hold of that, and they were racing, trying to get ahead of it. In the meantime, I think the message should have been we need to slow down and kind of wait and see. And ultimately, the title funding was delivered, fortunately. With the federal funding and special ed, depending on what those cuts are, how deep they are, what they impact, they could drastically impact us, or we might, be minimally impacted. I know Ms. Geider had pointed out in some of the communication that I'd seen that, what we might receive as a state is less than some states. So I think, that even if there's cuts, we might be impacted less than some other states are impacted. But of course, any type of cuts to funding would have a negative impact on what we can do here.
Just to add to that, and thank you for that. From where I sit in my day job with the state assembly, I can tell you that the concern in the state legislature in the next few years in terms of the budget is how are we going to make up for the drastic spending cuts from the federal government? Because as you know, we pay into, as New Yorkers, we pay quite a bit into federal taxes, and a lot of times those taxes go to other states, right? We are a net supplier of taxes to the federal government. We don't get nearly as much as we give out. But now, as things are restructuring, and how much we get back from the federal government is going to be dwindling quite a bit, the state has to make a decision of, all right, which one of those holes are we going to fill with state taxpayer money? Ultimately, it's still coming out of our pockets, right? So that, I think, is going, as you look at the revenue side of things and how much we receive in state revenue, I think that's what we're all bracing for, right? Is the fact that New York State is receiving an estimated $14 billion a year in cuts, I believe, from the federal government in response to the upcoming proposed budget, or actually, sorry, the budget that was passed by the federal government. So there's going to be a lot of changes at the state level, and the fact of the matter is the state can't make up that $14 billion in cuts. And so there's going to be some lean times, and I'm not sure where it's going to affect everyone the most, if it's at the school level, with state aid going to schools, or with other things, but we have to be cognizant of that and really brace for impact, I think, unfortunately, because $14 billion is a lot of money. And I just hope that it won't impact our school district too much. But it's reassuring to know that you guys are on it and that we've got a good team in place to kind of react to what's coming.
Yeah, and I would offer, just talking on this file, if the board was interested in doing like a budget workshop, we'd be happy to do that with you, just to get a look at some of the numbers and things as they become more transparent. So we definitely would offer that if anyone on the board is interested in doing that.
You mean like in winter, January?
Yeah, when we get a little bit further down the road, we could do that.
We built them in some extra time into the schedule last year. This year, if we do want to do one, we'll have to add a night or do it as part of a board meeting, just a heads up to everyone here. But I think it would be worthwhile.
Good.
Any other board members? No. Now, I know there's been discussion in the past about how we build our budget. So whether or not we just start with whatever we had last year and we go from there, or if we do that idea of zero-based budgeting. Are we going to try to do zero-based budgeting this year?
What are your thoughts on that?
So one of the things that we've already started doing, and you'll see it with the reports that were approved tonight, we have encumbered as many things as we can going in for this year for 25, 26. Part of the goal of that is so that when we run the appropriation status report, I'm not going to call it zero-based budgeting, but what we're definitely doing is trying to look at those expenses and where we're trending for this year and taking a real hard look at where our expenses were last year and then trying to align the budget codes. So we've done a lot of work with going through working with HR in the business office to make sure we have people coded in the correct codes, so hopefully we can be budgeting more to reality of what we're spending going forward.
That's a good thing. The long-range finance planning, is that something we're going to look at having maybe an actual report on that for the future? Or
We shared that in the weekly memo that I share with the board. There's a document in there
Thank
that
you.
just shows some of the numbers.
Okay, must have missed it. My fault. That's all from me. All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, for discussion, we have 5.1, proposed tax surcharge settlement, Hunt Liverpool LLC. This is the corner of Wetzel Road and Route 57. Looks like it was a mistake for many years, has been overassessed. There is a memo from Bonchenik and King in the executive content that you should review. Are there any questions for public session on this? No? I will be voting in favor of this one this time, so no one has to worry about pulling out their no votes on this one. Thank you. 5.2, proposed new club, Gesture with Love, ASL. This was, we got an email later in the week asking if we could add this on, and I said no problem. And it says raise awareness of the deaf and connect to their culture. Are there any questions on this club? Mr. Salazzo?
No, I just want to say I think this is wonderful.
Yeah.
It's a great addition to our school.
Yeah. I know with my filled ears, I have a great newfound respect for anyone that is hard of hearing over the past couple weeks. So if there are no objections, that'll go on for action at the next meeting. All right. I don't have any blue sheets for public communications. 6.2, board communications. Why don't we start down with Ms. Melnick? Ms. Chilbert? Okay. Ms. Brissett? Mr. Jones?
I'll be quick. Congratulations again to the marching band. They placed first in the last two competitions that they did, one of which was in Annapolis, Maryland. That's the one where they were coming back. So that's a big deal. They're doing a great job. Looking forward to the NYSBA retreat this week. I asked earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, about the board's thoughts on doing a donation to Dollars for Scholars. I was told that in years past, the board has provided a scholarship. I believe the minimum is $500. I would just ask that we consider that for this year. I'm not sure where the funding comes from, if that's something that we pitch in as individuals or if it's from the board. But Mr. Blaney, I don't know if you could speak to that.
Well, it's actually great. I wanted to ask a clarifying question. It would certainly not be from the district budget. That would be considered gifting public funds, which is outlawed by the New York State Constitution. If a group of individuals from the board wanted to put together the money to do that, that would obviously be their own prerogative. But obviously, taxpayer funds cannot be used for that purpose.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's just something I wanted to put in everyone's radar, I guess, is to consider that. There was something else. Actually, I think that's all I got. So that's it. Thank you.
Ms. Brissett,
Can I
you're
just say?
taking back your pass?
No, I just wanted to say something to that for the Dollars for Scholars. The PTOs do donate, like the Southern Quadrant. We have 3 schools, and we donate $500 apiece. So we do fundraise for that as well.
Right, but we're different from we're not the PTO, is what I'm saying.
I understand that, but I'm saying it comes from other sources, and one of them, me being on the school board and being on the PTO, we do fundraise for that stuff.
Okay, I'm just saying that, obviously, Dollars for Scholars is funded by tons of different sources, and
Sure.
I'm just suggesting that maybe we consider, as a school board, providing an additional scholarship, just because, we all know the cost of college, and if we can help one more student pay for their books or whatever it may be, I think it's worth a discussion.
Some of us already donate.
Okay, well, thank you for your donation.
Mr. Salazzo.
Yeah, last week, myself and Mr. Jones was there as well. We got to attend the Elm Crest Morgan Road trunk or treat event. Is it called trunk or treat? I can't. Yeah. It was great to see all the little kids' costumes, and my daughter got to run around. And me and my wife love it because we almost get nobody on our street. So I end up with a big bag of candy. So this year I got to get rid of it all early. But it was really great event put on by those PTOs. So thanks for letting us attend.
Thank you. Ms. Martin.
Yes, I have a couple things that I want to share. Last week, I was able to meet with Joelle Feinberg. She is the school counselor at Donlin Drive. Joelle has submitted an ASCA, the American School Counseling Association, RAMP application. RAMP stands for Recognized ASCA Model Program. She has basically a RAMP designation is a national recognition awarded by the ASCA to schools that demonstrate an exemplary data-informed school counseling program. Through this process, Joelle is working with her team to ensure that their program is fully aligned with the ASCA national model. She uses data to guide decision-making. She sets measurable goals tied to student achievement and implements tiered supports that address academic, social, and emotional needs of the students in the school building. At Donlin, their school counseling program is focused on a proactive, comprehensive support for students. This includes delivering classroom lessons that promote social emotional learning, providing small group and individual interventions to build targeted skills, and collaborating closely with families, teachers, and outside agencies to connect students with additional supports when needed. The data used to guide the program comes from the BIMAS and teacher and staff feedback. Joelle and the student support team collaborate to provide individualized, proactive support to students. This program is being modeled around increasing skill acquisition versus creating situational-based groups like, the banana splits is like focused on a situation versus gaining skill. And so the BIMAS has 5 skill categories that they collect data for students on. And those are self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, social awareness, and relationship skills. Students who are in the yellow and red for those categories will receive counseling based off of gaining that skill. The program also switches from an 8-week-long, one-time-a-week group to a daily for 8-day model. So this is allows them to do better skill development and retention with a rapid exposure to skills in bursts. The BIMAS is collected in October, February, and then again at the end of the school year, which allows for data tracking of skill improvement and progress monitoring. If support teams and teachers provide feedback that a student is still struggling with a skill after they have gone through that burst, the team will then increase individualized supports for that student. The model is a prevention-focused versus crisis-focused model. It allows the counseling team to feel more prepared and more successful with addressing these foundational issues. So the application was put in on October 15th, and Joelle should hear back sometime in like January, February, whether or not she's been able to receive that recognition. Currently, there's no schools in New York State that have this recognition, so we would be the first, so that's exciting. And I learned so much, it was wonderful. I was also able to visit Chestnut Middle for, like, as the board liaison for that school building, was able to get a tour of the school building. It was my first time walking through the school building, so that was really nice. I visited the tech rooms, saw the equipment that they have there, which has been updated. I learned a lot about the transportation technology curriculum. I didn't even know any of this stuff existed. It was great. I got to meet with Jessica St. Peter, the library media specialist there. She's running wonderful clubs and opportunities through the library there. It sounds like the middle schools are doing a book challenge where they're reading books and then doing like a Jeopardy-like challenge against the other middle schools to see like which middle school can answer the most questions about the books that they've read. So that's increasing reading. Had a chance to meet with Ms. Cutlip in the art classrooms and see the space that they have there. Saw the science lab classrooms. They're set up like labs, and the kitchen set up for the FACS classes. It's really wonderful over there at the middle school. And it was nice to see that the sort of elective-y options that they have at the middle school are really tying into the CTE programs that we have, courses that we have at the high school. Mr. Hunter also spoke about some inventive, collaborative things that the ENL team is doing at the school building with the SIFE students. And so those are the students with interrupted formal education. They have gotten together to do a more individualized class for those students so that they can work on foundational academics, having targeted, more individualized opportunities for those students to learn like the foundational reading and mathematics that some of them are missing. And so this will allow them to get that foundational skill to actually learn the stuff that's being taught at the middle school level. So I thought that was, we're always hoping for that opportunity for the students, and I think that was good. Mr. Hunter also talked about the PLC opportunities that the school building, all of our middle schools are now having the opportunity to do. He said that he's gotten tons of good feedback from the teachers, that's allowing them to communicate with other buildings at their same level, seeing what their peers are doing, how they're collecting data, being able to share new ideas so that they're not having to reinvent the wheel. And if something good is happening at another building, they're being able to share it. He also said that it's been very nice for all of the principals to get together so that they're kind of running their buildings similarly on the same bell schedule, on the way that they're doing the curriculum and all of the classes is aligned, so that if a student ends up needing to go to a different school building for, change in circumstances, they're not having a gap in their education. They're picking up right in the same spot. And then he talked a little bit about the Future Educators program with the 8th graders go over to the elementary school building and work with the elementary school students, and that has been a great partnership. The elementary school building is liking the assistance and help, and then the 8th graders are just getting an awesome opportunity working with the students. So it was a great visit. And then Kim and I were also able to join the CTE Advisory Council meeting last week. That was awesome. It was staff, students, community partners. We all got together. We're able to brainstorm, talk about the courses and programs we already have, and then how to build on those programs, continuing to make them relevant for the growing future, talking about things like shadowing, field trip opportunities, mentorships, internships. It was awesome to meet everybody, and the culinary students made us snacks, and that was nice. They were delicious. So thank you for that, and I will stop talking.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. 7.1, do I have a motion to approve the purchase of GPS replacement tablets as presented? Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Brissette. Any discussion? There was some information in the memo this week about this. All those in favor? All hands are raised. Thank you. 7.2, is there a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement between Liverpool Central School District and the United Liverpool Faculty Association? This is regarding the harmonized collective bargaining agreement. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Chilbert. Any discussion? All those in favor? All hands are raised. Thank you. 7.3, is there a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement between Liverpool Central School District and the United Liverpool Faculty Association regarding co-curriculars? Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Salazzo. Any discussion? All those in favor? All hands are raised. Thank you. 7.4, is there a motion to acknowledge the second reading of the proposed revisions for Policy 5681, Policy 6140, and Policy 6161, and approve the revisions as presented? Motion by Ms. Melnick, second by Ms. Martin. Any discussion? Just a note that, and it was rightfully asked as a question, in the past, we've had it come up again for an approval after the first reading and the second reading. Really, it's first reading, you vote on the first reading, second reading, you vote on the second reading, and it's done. It's approved. So that's how we're going to do it from now on. If you have discussion on the second reading, this would be the time for it to happen, but just so there aren't questions of when it's going to come up or not. Ms. Brissette?
You said we're going to vote on the first reading?
Yes, we do vote on the first
Okay.
reading.
Okay.
Yep. Voting on the first reading is just moving it on to the next meeting for a second reading. So, lots of reading. Any more discussion? All those in favor? All hands are raised. Thank you. Announcements, November 3rd, Board of Education meeting, 6 p.m. District Office. November 17th, Board of Education meeting, 6 p.m. District Office. Executive session. Do I have a motion to enter executive session for the purposes of discussing contractual negotiations, which would jeopardize the district's position if made public? Motion by Mr. Jones. Second by Ms. Martin. Any discussion? Ms. Brissette?
Is there going to be a vote after?
It's not on here, so no.
Okay.
Any other discussion? No? Okay. All those in favor? All right, thank you. We will go to room 18, and we will not be voting on anything when we come back. It should be a pretty short executive session. Thank you. 7:27 PM. Do I have a motion to return to open session? Motion by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Brissette. Any discussion? All those in favor? All hands are raised. Thank you. Seeing no further business, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Motion by Ms. Chilbert, second by Ms. Melnick. Any discussion? All those in favor? All hands are raised. Thank you. 7:27 PM. We are adjourned.